Portugal's draw against DR Congo was expected to be nothing more than a small bump in the road. Instead, Cristiano Ronaldo's display has raised fresh concerns, and a new insider report suggests that some players are becoming increasingly frustrated with the way the team is built around him. According to sources close to the situation, however, the frustration extends beyond what happened on the pitch. Just one day earlier, his longtime rival Lionel Messi had orchestrated the perfect World Cup start for Argentina. Meanwhile, Ronaldo was left disappointed as Portugal were held to a 1-1 draw by DR Congo in their Group K opener. The contrast could not have been clearer. In many ways, it tells the entire story. Messi had scored a hat trick. Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe had both netted braces. All of that happened the day before. The football world was waiting to see whether Ronaldo would respond with a statement performance of his own. In Houston, he gave his answer. Portugal came flying out of the blocks. Just 6 minutes into the match, João Neves rose highest to meet a floated cross from Pedro Neto and headed past goalkeeper Dimitri Berteau to give Portugal an early lead. At that point, the script seemed written. Then, everything changed. Portugal controlled roughly 75% of possession and produced some of the smoothest attacking football seen in the tournament so far. But possession alone does not win matches. Without goals, attractive football becomes little more than a passing exercise. The opening goal capped off a remarkable 6-minute stretch during which Portugal completed 84 passes compared to just 12 from their opponents. Yet DR Congo gradually settled into the game. Before halftime, Yoan Wissa brought them level from a corner kick, and by the final whistle, DR Congo had recorded more shot attempts, more shots on target, and a higher expected goals tally than Portugal. Think about that for a moment. A Portugal side featuring Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, and João Neves was outshot, outcreated, and effectively outperformed after the opening 6 minutes. A nation appearing at its first World Cup in 52 years arrived in Houston and walked away with a point. And throughout all of this, where was Ronaldo? The Portuguese captain stayed on the field for the full 90 minutes but managed only 3 shot attempts and failed to put any of them on target. Remarkably, it was the 6th time in his World Cup career that Ronaldo finished a match without recording a single shot on goal. Not in this tournament alone. Across his entire World Cup career, 6 different matches without testing the goalkeeper once. That is the record being defended whenever discussions about his guaranteed starting place emerge. Ronaldo's best chance arrived in the 69th minute. After controlling a pass inside the penalty area, he fired narrowly wide of the right post in what could have been the decisive moment of the game. 5 minutes later, he was presented with another promising opportunity, but his effort was blocked by the Congolese defense. 2 major chances. No goals. No decisive contribution. Meanwhile, DR Congo celebrated the draw as though it were a victory. Ronaldo completed the full match, touched the ball only 25 times, and failed to register a single shot attempt until the 67th minute. When the shots finally came, all 3 missed the target. None seriously threatened the goalkeeper. He also failed to create a single chance for a teammate. Not one. On football's biggest stage, Ronaldo often looked isolated and visibly frustrated. After the final whistle, he headed straight down the tunnel following Portugal's disappointing draw, while the rest of the squad remained on the pitch to acknowledge the large Portuguese crowd that had traveled to support them in Houston. The Portuguese captain wasted little time heading back to the dressing room. While his teammates stayed behind to applaud the supporters, wave to the crowd, and acknowledge the occasion, Ronaldo had already disappeared down the tunnel. As soon as the final whistle sounded, he was one of the first players to leave the pitch. Cameras caught him walking away with his head lowered, visibly frustrated by both the result and a performance in which several opportunities slipped away. That image alone, Ronaldo making his way down the tunnel while the rest of the squad remained with the fans, says more than any stat sheet ever could. And according to people close to the national team setup, it's the type of moment that has been quietly building behind the scenes for quite some time. But let's look at the numbers for a second, because numbers aren't influenced by reputation, emotion, or legacy. They simply reflect what happened. The match against DR Congo marked Ronaldo's 5th consecutive World Cup appearance without finding the net. It was also his 10th straight game in a major international tournament, combining World Cups and European Championships, without scoring. 10 matches in a row, no goals. Even more striking, Ronaldo has not scored a non-penalty goal in a major international competition since June 2021. And despite remaining on the field for nearly every available minute, Portugal have managed just one goal across their last 4 major tournament matches. Think about that. A Portugal squad filled with world-class talent from some of Europe's biggest clubs has scored only once in 4 major tournament games. 1 goal, and Ronaldo was on the pitch for almost all of those minutes. According to Opta, he has now gone 10 consecutive major tournament appearances for Portugal without scoring despite taking 33 shots, 11 of which were on target. 33 attempts, 11 on target, 0 goals. At this point, the lack of end product has become impossible to ignore. The reality is that Ronaldo's struggles in major tournaments did not begin yesterday. Even during his prime years, his World Cup record was never considered exceptional. While Lionel Messi has scored 16 goals in 27 World Cup appearances, Ronaldo has managed 8 in 24. Even when he was at the peak of his career, winning Ballons d'Or and lifting Champions League trophies year after year, the World Cup was never the competition where he consistently delivered his best goal-scoring numbers. That's the part many people tend to overlook. His most recent goal in a major tournament came against Ghana in Portugal's opening match of the 2022 World Cup. After that, he failed to score again in Qatar as Portugal's campaign ended in the quarter-finals. More notably, he was eventually dropped from the starting lineup during the knockout rounds by then-manager Fernando Santos. Think about that for a moment. Fernando Santos, the coach who guided Portugal to the nation's only major international trophy, watched Ronaldo every day in training and ultimately decided the team functioned better without him in the starting 11 during the most important matches of the tournament. That decision spoke volumes then. And for many observers, what happened in Houston feels uncomfortably familiar. Still, the discussion goes beyond goals alone. Ronaldo spent much of the evening heavily marked, while the service he expected from teammates such as Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, and João Neves repeatedly broke down before it could reach him. At this stage of his career, Ronaldo no longer has the movement needed to consistently escape tight marking, and that makes him far more difficult to find in dangerous areas, especially when the entire attack is still designed around him. And that's the real issue. It's not simply that he isn't scoring goals. It's that the attacking framework of one of the most talented squads in world football continues to be shaped around a player who, at this level, is no longer producing the way he once did. Take Portugal's best chance in the draw against DR Congo. When Francisco Conceição cut the ball back into the area, Ronaldo got to it first and directed a scuffed effort toward the near post. Yet Bruno Fernandes was positioned just a few yards behind him in a far better shooting position. In that moment, Ronaldo's involvement may have actually denied Portugal a more promising opportunity. And that wasn't an isolated example. For much of the match, Ronaldo remained stationed in advanced areas waiting for the ideal delivery. The pass never arrived. But the larger concern isn't the missed service, it's the expectation that the team must constantly search for him. That dynamic, the waiting, the positioning, the assumption that every attack should eventually find Ronaldo, is beginning to affect the players around him. What rarely gets discussed after the final whistle is the simple reality that when one player can no longer provide the same movement, everyone else has to make adjustments. That's the hidden cost Portugal's most talented players have been paying for years. While Ronaldo has continued to score goals throughout his career, critics have long argued that his presence can restrict the output of teammates who are forced to alter their own game in order to compensate for his limitations. That criticism didn't suddenly appear after the match in Houston. It's been part of the conversation for a long time. But on the stage of a World Cup opener where every tactical detail is examined under a microscope, it felt more noticeable than ever. The truth is that Ronaldo is no longer the player he used to be. He doesn't possess the same burst of acceleration. He no longer has the stamina that once allowed him to constantly attack spaces. And he struggles to create separation for himself around the penalty area. As a result, his teammates often find themselves trying to manufacture the perfect cross or final pass directly to him. Instead of relying on movement, quick combinations, and fluid rotations, the elements that make elite attacks dangerous. Portugal's midfielders frequently end up directing possession toward a forward who isn't moving enough to make those situations effective. This squad is simply too talented to be producing only one goal because so much emphasis is placed on getting Ronaldo on the score sheet. That's really the heart of the debate. Portugal arrived at this World Cup with a genuinely elite group of players. Vitinha and João Neves are back-to-back UEFA Champions League winners with Paris Saint-Germain. Bruno Fernandes recently won the Premier League Player of the Year award. Bernardo Silva completed a move to Real Madrid. Pedro Neto and Rafael Leão are among the most exciting wide attackers in European football. This is not a team that should be settling for a 1-1 draw against a nation ranked 46th in the world. Now compare that to what happened the day before. Lionel Messi scored a hat-trick against Algeria because he was involved in every phase of the attack. He dropped deep, carried the ball forward, linked play, created opportunities, and finished chances himself. He wasn't simply standing near the penalty area waiting for the perfect pass. And that contrast is likely what Roberto Martinez is wrestling with right now. Messi, another all-time great, is also in the later stages of his career. He is also approaching what many believe will be his final World Cup. Yet he influenced the game from all over the pitch and walked away with 3 goals. Meanwhile, his longtime rival spent 67 minutes inside the box before even attempting a shot. Questions about Ronaldo's role did not begin at this tournament. They started gaining serious traction in late 2022. His highly publicized conflict with Erik ten Hag at Manchester United centered in part on concerns about his limited work away from the ball. Only weeks later, Ronaldo found himself on the bench for Portugal's round of 16 match and their quarter-final at the World Cup in Qatar. In other words, this isn't a new conversation. It's a pattern that has been developing for quite some time. The tension itself is nothing new. What has changed is the setting. This is the 2026 World Cup, potentially the final tournament of Cristiano Ronaldo's career, and the gap between what Portugal needs from its center forward and what Ronaldo currently provides is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. For years, critics have argued that Ronaldo's presence can limit the effectiveness of those around him, forcing teammates to alter their natural game in order to compensate for his shortcomings. His scoreless run at UEFA Euro 2024 only intensified those concerns. 5 matches, no goals. Then came the draw against DR Congo, extending that drought to 10 straight appearances without a goal across major international tournaments. Eventually, what starts as a talking point becomes a trend. And what looks like a trend starts to resemble a pattern. Coming into this World Cup, the biggest question surrounding the 41-year-old was simple. Is Ronaldo helping Portugal's pursuit of a first-ever World Cup title, or is he holding them back? There's been an ongoing discussion about whether Portugal's all-time leading scorer and most capped player still fits within the demands of modern, high-intensity international football. For a long time, that debate largely existed in opinion columns, television segments, and football podcasts. Now, according to reports, it has begun creeping into the dressing room itself. And after the final whistle in Houston, the criticism became louder than ever. Pundits were outspoken. Insiders were outspoken. Even respected figures with first-hand experience at the highest level made their views unmistakably clear. Speaking on SBS Sport, former Ghana international and former AC Milan and Barcelona midfielder Kevin Prince Boateng did not soften his stance. Can I be honest? Ronaldo, if he were a true team player, would step aside and allow the younger players to flourish, he said, because Portugal are a better team without him. Boateng continued by pointing to what he believes is the central issue. There's so much pressure when he's on the field because everyone wants to pass the ball to him. Having shared dressing rooms with some of football's biggest stars, Boateng understands the dynamics that come with managing superstar personalities. And his assessment echoed a criticism that analysts and insiders have been raising for months. The team's instinctive desire to funnel attacks through Ronaldo may actually be creating tactical problems. His conclusion was straightforward. If Portugal want to go deep in this tournament, I think Ronaldo should step down, let the others play, and then come on for the final 15 or 20 minutes when he can still make a difference. Then came a segment on ESPN FC that carried an equally blunt message. The discussion, titled He's Not Useful, featured Steve Nicole and Alejandro Moreno breaking down Portugal's performance while tackling the question many observers are now asking. Would Roberto Martinez actually consider leaving Ronaldo out? Portugal appeared to be in complete control after their ideal start, but for most of the remaining 80 minutes against DR Congo, they struggled to create enough danger and ultimately settled for a 1-1 draw in a game they were expected to win comfortably. It also marked the 4th time in 5 World Cups that Portugal failed to win their opening match. And once again, attention returned to the complicated questions surrounding Ronaldo's role at this level in 2026. Then it was Roberto Martinez's turn to face the media. Portugal's manager dismissed concerns about both his team and Ronaldo's ongoing goal-scoring drought following the disappointing result. He avoided directly addressing questions about whether Ronaldo's place in future lineups could come under scrutiny. Instead, he redirected the conversation. He praised the team's approach. He discussed broader tactical patterns. He emphasized the process. Yet hidden within his comments was a detail that may have revealed more than the answers themselves. Martinez largely blamed Portugal's struggles against DR Congo on a loss of initiative after João Neves gave his side the early lead. João Neves gave Portugal the perfect start when he scored in the 6th minute. After that, however, Portugal produced only 6 more shot attempts for the remainder of the match. 6 shots in the following 84 minutes. For a team with this much attacking talent, those numbers are difficult to explain. It looked like a side that simply stopped functioning offensively. The obvious question is why? What changed after those opening 6 minutes that caused a team packed with quality to become so ineffective in front of goal? If you go back and watch the match, the answer becomes fairly clear. DR Congo quickly adjusted their defensive approach and made shutting down Cristiano Ronaldo their priority. On the rare occasions Ronaldo did find himself in scoring positions, he failed to make the most of them. The Congolese defenders were excellent, limiting his influence and largely removing him from the game, and when the centerpiece of your attack is taken away, a Portugal side still heavily built around supplying him suddenly finds itself without an alternative plan. Of course, dropping Ronaldo would be an enormous decision. Fernando Santos made that call during the 2022 World Cup. But ultimately, it did not become a permanent solution. Sometimes the most difficult decisions are also the most important. Spain learned that lesson years ago when they moved on from Real Madrid legend Raúl after a disappointing tournament before the 2006 World Cup. Roberto Martinez, by contrast, has consistently stood by Ronaldo and defended his place in the team. But with the Spanish coach expected to leave after this World Cup, the situation is different now. In many ways, he has nothing left to lose in pursuit of success. That's the key point. Martinez's future with Portugal reportedly ends after this tournament regardless of the outcome. There is no long-term position to protect, no political capital to save, no future cycle to plan around. If there was ever a moment to make the same decision Fernando Santos made in Qatar, and stick with it, this would be the time. None of this changes Ronaldo's legacy. He remains Portugal's all-time leading scorer with 143 international goals. He also became just the 2nd player in history to appear at 6 World Cups, matching Lionel Messi, who reached the same milestone only a day earlier. Those accomplishments are extraordinary. Nothing that happens in this tournament can erase them. But that isn't what this discussion is about. Nobody is questioning his career. The debate is about the present, about this tournament, about this Portugal team, and about what gives them the best chance to win right now. As the tournament began in the United States, Ronaldo watched Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, and most notably his longtime rival Lionel Messi dominate the headlines with standout performances. Meanwhile, Ronaldo looked less like the star attraction and more like a veteran supporting character in Portugal's opening match. That was the reality of the occasion. He didn't simply fall short of expectations, he was publicly outshined by every player he has spent the last 2 decades being compared against. Years ago, Ronaldo adapted his game into a more energy-efficient version of himself, and honestly, that's understandable. At 41 years old, nobody expects him to press relentlessly from the front or spend 90 minutes tracking runners. But conserving energy becomes a problem when the team around you needs more movement than you're capable of providing, especially when the attack depends on actions that are no longer a natural part of your game.